Dobrodošli na Netokracija podcast, ja sam Brezak Brkana, sa mnom je jedan od kreatora Dooma i to je vrlo neobično, mislim, John Romero baš imati podcastu, nemamo svaki tjedan, danas ćemo imati u Netokracija podcastu, a ja ću naravno sad krenuti na engleskom da možemo voditi ovaj razgovor, a prije toga subscribe-te se ako niste na YouTube, u svim podcast kanalima i šta znam na Steamu, možda i dođemo na Steam. John, hello, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, yeah.
So I hear you're a metal fan.
I've been a metal fan for a long time, yeah.
A bit. Will you be going to the Maiden concert in Dublin next month?
Which one?
There's an Iron Maiden concert in Dublin next month.
I hope so. I hope so.
Yeah, hope so.
I do hope so. I just I work with their fan club, their official
Oh, I
fan
did
club.
not know
Yeah.
that. In that vein, so as a music head, you obviously like metal as a music genre, and it obviously played some impact as far as Doom and the games that you've created as well. Yeah. I'm just interested when we're talking about like influences from pop culture, be it maybe board games or games like D&D, be it music genres like metal and so on. How do you like look at the impact that these things that you love and like have impacted your games, and how do they usually impact creators? And what would you maybe recommend to creators who are thinking, okay, how can I incorporate these things that I like into the games or the software or the tech creations that I'm working on?
So one of the interesting things, like this is something that people don't usually think about, but it's part of just being a creator in a field when you're like going to be sitting all day thinking about something, like say someone who's painting all day, you know, or maybe even painting on a computer or programming or designing or whatever. So one of my strong design beliefs or development beliefs is that you need to set up your environment to reflect what you want to put into what you're creating. Set up the room, set up the lighting, set up the scenery to reflect what you want people to feel from what you're doing, right? So when I was making levels for Doom, let's say, I'm playing some songs. Like let's say I'm gonna make a level that I feel like is gonna have like a really big scale, and I want to feel epic when somebody sees this area, and it's just awesome. So I would play songs from Queensryche's Warning, right? Like the Roads to Madness or No Sanctuary or something like that. There's like very epic sounding music, and I'd be playing that while I'm making the level.
To get into that headspace.
Because I'm hearing it and feeling it, and I'm trying to make it. Make what you are hearing. It's like I don't need to imagine the epicness of what it should look like. I'm feeling it from the music, and so I'm putting it into that as well. And so we were making another game that took place in a like a Peruvian cloud forest, right? And so while creating that game, we set up everything that you saw was like Indiana Jones themed. Everything in the entire studio. And the music that I was listening to was like Martin Denny's Exotica, which is a musical style he invented in the 50s in Hawaii, which takes Hawaiian jazz, lounge jazz, with animals in it.
Interesting.
And it's super unique. But it was such a popular style of music in the United States in the 50s because of the GIs who were stationed in the South Pacific that were used to Hawaiian music, and there was a tiki craze in the 50s where everyone was having tiki parties because they loved what they experienced back in the South Pacific. They were recreating it and having parties in the United States, and that music arose from that culture, from the influence of the South Pacific. And so that music genre was created in that atmosphere and got so popular that many of the people that were in his group split off and continued the Exotica form for many years. And a lot of them are available only on albums, but you can actually, if you look for Martin Denny, you can get his music's on iTunes, you know, and you can listen to it, and it's like very unique, but it's jazz, and it's this specific sound, and that's like what I was listening to while I'm making a game about being in a cloud forest in, you know, Peru, you know, or Costa Rica, and I need to make it like everything I'm thinking about is supported. Like I need to, what am I not putting in the game that I'm listening to? What am I not putting in there? And so, you know, it really helps focus your creativity when your environment reflects the thing that you're trying to.
Do you think that's something that's, as far as gaming goes, something that a lot of people would do to get into that mindset? And is it something that you think that outside of gaming, maybe in different areas of tech, not maybe crypto, which we mentioned, but like developing a web app or a mobile app, that's something that could help in doing it?
I think it would help anybody, but I've never heard of anyone doing it.
Yeah.
But to me, it just makes sense that you would make your environment reflect the thing you're trying to create.
Personally, I've never thought about doing atmosphere music for a certain type of project. It's more like if I'm a speaker at a conference, I have my like playlist that I have timed in to like 5 minutes before I go on stage because it's like gets me going in the right mindset. But this does make sense if it's a different type of project.
Yeah. Well, a lot of times people don't have the opportunity to do it because they're in an office and they have fluorescent lights and they can't control their environment, right? But if you are in a place where you have a room, you have an office, and you can control the lighting, and you can control everything that you're looking at and the sounds that you hear and all that, you absolutely can control, like, you know, focus and design that space to reflect the thing that you're working on and or creating.
These days, are you working from home or are you working from your office in Galway?
Mostly from the office right now, yeah.
And do people like you set up their environments in that sense? Do you encourage them to do that?
We haven't done it because we're all in the same room, because it's super collaborative. So we have a room that is it's a chilled out place. It's not too crowded, but people, we like hearing people as they are communicating with somebody else about the thing that they're trying to do, because everybody's getting educated constantly as they hear what's going on around them. People aren't talking loud, but it's like you get to hear, we call programmer talk radio. You get to hear programmers talking to each other, and it's like, oh, they're going to do that with the option, or that's how they're going to implement that thing. Or you just kind of hear, it's very important to hear that, because sometimes a lead will go, wait a second, how are you planning on doing that? You know, it's like, we actually are changing that, and so you need to go down this road instead. So
it makes it easier to collaborate with the project down the line.
Yeah, it's important for people to hear what's going on, because it saves so much time that you would have to spend in meetings correcting things later because you didn't overhear it. You know?
Yeah, it saves time. On the other spectrum of like working together, I saw that on the career page of Romero Gaming, you have certain things that you offer to employees that are not maybe typical. One thing that I found, and maybe this is just from someone not in the industry, sabbaticals, right? So you do support your employees if they have a personal project that they want to work on, and you pay like 20% or something of their time. Why? Why does it make sense for them, and why does it make sense for you to support that? Because again, most companies probably wouldn't like have something like that. I'm guessing like the closest thing in tech would be like Google's 20% time, like working on your own things.
Well, you know, in education they have sabbaticals, right? If you're a professor, you can basically go on a sabbatical and have some time. With technology, where we're at, offering sabbatical time is a perk that no one else does. So it makes us look different, right? But it's also like the people that we have in our company are super passionate about the thing they're doing, and the thing that they're doing they would do for free, right? Like they love it so much. Them being so into their profession, and so they're very into their profession, and the things that we have them focused on might not necessarily be the thing that they want to personally do all the time on their own time, right? So why not let them have the opportunity to do the thing that they care about? Might have nothing to do with our game or company or anything, but let them work on that pet project instead of leaving the company because they just can't not do this thing. Let them do it, right?
It's basically a way of getting to keep the good people still on board.
Who are exploring. They want to explore things, you know, and they want to do that and not have ties to the company. Like, I have to do it for the company. I have to spend my time making something the company can see is useful. It's never going to be that way. Like, people are always interested in some things that has nothing to do with what they're doing, but it actually will make them better at what they're doing at work just because they learned something. Right? So that's super important for us. And we just had someone go and do a whole sabbatical thing and finish it. And he's just on fire because he just has never been able to do this. And when he did it, it was just like, he got to do so much cool stuff. He was just super excited about being able to do it. You know, and that's for people who've been there for so long, like 5 years, I think, is when people can do this. It really does. It energizes people when they come back into the office. They're just like very excited that they just spent that time and created something that they can see going forward for a while. You know?
So you would recommend that to other founders?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. You know, if people are frustrated or if they have a desire to do something, to try something else, and they can't do it in their work time, because people have families, and that doesn't mean that, you know, they have families. They go home, they can't spend the time coding all the time, right? They're gonna have to take care of their family, and so when do they get to do this? You know, weekends, that's family time. So like they need to do it during the workday, and this is the best way of letting them do it.
So basically harness the energy that they have.
They get super energized, and they learn, and they care about the company even more, because it's a company that lets them do that, you know?
Talking about family, so you released one interesting game, Gunman Taco Truck, which I actually completely didn't know was your game, and Dominic's. I remember I played it. I was like doing my research, and I'm like, I know this game. I actually played it.
You downloaded it and played it?
Yeah, I didn't know the background. I liked the game, and I'm like, okay, cool. Actually, of all the games, and I don't play a lot of mobile games.
There's so many games out there, right?
I'm interested, just like, can you give a little bit of background about the game for those in our audience who haven't played it like I have, and the creation process?
So this game idea came from our 9-year-old Donovan back in 2014. So Donovan's idea was, you're the last Mexican in the U.S. A scientist accidentally set off 7 atomic bombs in the United States.
As you do.
So there's a lot of mutated animals out there, and there are these safe cities where there are survivors. And these survivors, they need to eat, right?
Of course.
And you're Mexican, and you have a taco truck, and you want to make tacos and serve them. But the goal is to get to Winnipeg, because they have no tacos up there. So your goal is to get out of the U.S. and go to Winnipeg, where winners go, right? And basically make tacos. And the whole way that you're going through the U.S. is procedurally generated. So it's like you never know when you're going to start the game which path you're going to go on or what's available. And when you go into a town on the highway, you're basically using your gun mounted on top of the taco truck to blow away everything on the highway and click on it to pick it up. So you're picking up metal. So you shoot cans and signs and everything, and you pick up the metal, you shoot the mutated monster animals, and you click on them to get their meat, because when you pull into town, there's some survivors who are like, yay! And then tacos, you click on your truck, and it opens up, and now you're inside your truck, and then you start they order a taco, and you got to figure out how to make it. And there's a recipe book that teaches you and all this stuff. But you basically make these tacos as fast as you can out of the irradiated, nuclear meat from these animals, and then serve them. And these people, they have all these comments like, tasty, and so there's all that. And then there's a store there, and the store is either a grocery store for all the supplies to make the tacos except for the meat, or it's a garage, because you have to upgrade your truck or you will not survive all the crazy worst monsters that are down the highway as you go towards Winnipeg.
So it's Carmageddon feed. I can't remember the
Nintendo. It's like Cooking Mama. It's in
combined.
FTL, right? For the traversal through the whole place.
So how did the creation process look like?
Creating the game, first the idea came from a Saturday coding session where I was teaching Donovan how to program. And I had done this for a long time. And so this one day he had that idea, and we started working on a taco truck. I said, what's the game today? And he's like, Gunman Taco Truck. I was like, okay, I love that name. So we basically started working on it, but later that night was when he came back, Mommy, I know what the game is. And so she's like, hold on a second, got the camera, and she was recording them. So we have his pitch when he was 9 years old. Nice. He's 18 now. So half his life ago was when he came up with this. And he basically was just telling us, you're a Mexican and you're going from town to town, and you're just like shooting up everything and then making tacos out of them. And it's like, what a core loop. I love that core loop, And so we basically got a bunch of people on Facebook, posted on Facebook, a bunch of friends saw it and went, I will volunteer to produce that, and other people were volunteering, and we're like, let's make this game because it's a really good idea. and it'll teach him that really great ideas can get a team behind them. He doesn't need to code, he just needs an idea. So we started to do it in game jams. So once a month, we would basically spend Friday, Saturday, Sunday just working on that game. And we would have my oldest son, who's a lead programmer in the game industry, one of our coders at our company who loves doing game jams, and then we hired an artist, and then Brenda was helping with design stuff and themes and all that, and I was coding as well. So, and I was doing all the audio and, you know, the world map.
It helps when your like family and friends are in the industry.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what we did. We did that for a year, got it pretty far along, and then we spent and then in 2016 we spent the entire year finishing the game to like an actual polish. But because people heard about it, like Dean Takahashi heard about it, VentureBeat, he wanted to interview Donovan. So he did an interview with Donovan, and then the Wall Street Journal wanted to talk about it. So they did an interview, and they sent a photographer out. And it's all about like, wow, you can get kids to want to learn how to program through game development. If you can teach them how to code a game, it gets them excited, and they...
Especially because, again, it took more than a year.
Yeah, it took 2 years, yeah.
What are your learnings as, like, we have a lot of parents in our audience who have like small kids. I have a 2-year-old.
Yeah.
Like, what are your learnings as a parental figure? Like, what has Gunman Tlaco Truck taught you about teaching Donovan and kids in general about like creating their projects, right? Well, they don't need to code, obviously.
Yeah, they don't need to code. I think it's an exposure to a creative process, which I think is really important.
Interesting. That
they can see, first of all, the belief in their idea is really important. The fact that you've mobilized several people to spend a lot of time, and he's there for the whole time. He falls asleep next to us when we're working for 12 hours a day at least, right? And so because we love it. It's so fun doing game jams on games that you like. I mean, at night we're just laughing. It's so funny, right? Yeah. And I also just cook Mexican food the whole time. So like, you always want to be at the game jam because like I'm making Mexican food. So what he learned really from the first year was just like, this is a really great community project kind of thing. It's a group that believes in his idea, and they spent crazy amounts of time trying to make it happen for years. And he gets to hear how the process of developing a game is. He doesn't need to learn how to make a game, but he can kind of be around the game. And we can ask him, can you proof this? Do you like the way the world map is working? Do you like the way the truck bobs on the street? Is that enough damage? You know, just like ask him, like he's the game director, if he likes these things, to approve them. And he would come by and like tip people with a penny, like, here's a tip, you did a good job, you know? And so it's just getting him involved in a way that doesn't place any, like we did at the very beginning, we did place the impetus on him to design the game. And it needed to, because he's such a little guy. He just turned 10 actually when we were gonna go to Ireland. He was 9 when he came up with the pitch, 10 when we were coming to Ireland, but while we were gone, we decided, you're going to design the game. If we're going to make this thing, you need to design it, and here's how you're going to do it. So I had pieces of paper that would say like weapons and trucks and tacos and monsters, and I would only make a certain number of those pages, and that's it. That's as big as the game can get. Here's
so you have a scope.
Yeah, it's scoped. Here's 10 pages for trucks. Can't have any more than that. They better be really good. Here's your monsters. There are 10 different monsters, 30 tacos. And so it's like limitations just by giving him that. And it's like there's a place to draw the picture and a place to describe, put the name and the description of what it is, and that's all we need. And so he did that, and we gave those pages to the artist who drew everything. He even drew that while we're gone. And so when we come back from our trip, everything's ready. The design of all that stuff's ready, and all the art is ready. And so we can just start making the game, And it was great. And it was just like him, and then him being involved. First, he had to show that he was dedicated to it, and he did that. And then during the process, he's just there to see what it could be like if he was on a team making something. And just like we're making his game, and we're spending tons of time, and we're having a fun time, and game development's cool, and all that kind of stuff. It was really.
Ended up being a very interesting game, which again,
it was really. In fact, you won't believe it. Like, we had never had any talks with Apple, but Apple chose it as a game that they loved, which meant that it was on the front page of the App Store for a week. So they chose it on iOS, and then we released it on Mac, They chose it for Mac, and then they contacted us to the next year to do an interview with Donovan that they could tie to his game.
I saw that
page.
interview on
So they wanted that because they were going to launch the App Store with all these developer interviews, like because the App Store was like nothing but just apps. So when they started doing written content and everything, they wanted him as part of it because they loved the game. And then the next year after that, they contacted me to make it support the iPhone 10 because it had a bigger, had rounded corners and all this stuff. I had to reprogram it for that. But it's like 20,000 games a month are published on the App Store. And they picked this game to contact us multiple years in a row about it. And I think they just really like the story behind it. It's a family development.
Has he gone into development afterwards?
He has not.
Yet.
He has not. He might.
He might.
He's an absolute gamer, 100%. I don't see how he's not going to do games.
Yeah.
But he is going to explore some other things, and maybe he'll come back to it.
So if he decides someday to start a game studio, like you have and your wife have together, he might want co-founders, which leads me to my next question is what would your advice to him or anyone starting either a tech company or game studio be in terms of finding co-founders, finding people you want to work with, employees? What has your experience so far taught you about lessons that you use with Romero Games today, but in the past about collaboration and finding the right people?
So the way that you find really good founders is you work with them for a while before you decide to start a company with them. If you start a company with people that you don't know, you've just rolled the dice.
Yeah.
Right? And if something is bugging you at the beginning, it's going to be horrible
like
in a year.
Flags.
Yeah. Any red flags, it'd be 10 red flags in a year. So having founders that were people that you worked with for a while in a really intense way, which is even more important to say if you're going to really hit the wall or something crazy is going to happen. If you've done it before with them, you know what to expect. So being in a situation, the dedication has to be there, the passion has to be there. If they can't match your passion or dedication, there's going to feel like there's an inequality in the group. So we were so lucky when we started id Software that each of the people was as dedicated as you could get to what their job was. If there wasn't, then somebody wouldn't be there, right? Yeah. So it's really important to make sure that the people are dedicated, but that you've worked on stuff before and you know what they're like. And if you can do that for several years, you have a very high chance of having a successful partnership rather than just throwing people together and hope it works.
So we also took the opportunity to ask some Croatian game developers to ask you a few questions. So these are their questions.
All right.
A bit more technology focused. Which technology do you think is the most optimal for game development today? You're looking for Unreal 5 developers if I recall correctly. So is it Unreal? Is it something else? What would you
it's Unreal.
recommend? Okay.
It's absolutely Unreal. Yeah, it's hard to, when you do an evaluation of a technology for a new project and Unreal's in there.
Yeah.
It's just unbelievably great compared to a lot of other technologies just because of everything that it can do. And it's anything that you're going to put together instantly looks amazing. You don't have to go, well, let's hire a graphics programmer to make this look good because we need a ton of shaders in here and all this stuff. It's already looks good. Just throw anything in there. It looks crazy. Yeah. And it's with the blueprints, it makes it easy for people who don't even code to make a game. I know artists who they've made their entire game in Unreal and they don't know any code, but they've made a whole game through blueprints because they're really easy. It's
changing landscape. I also saw YouTubers like Corridor Crew and such doing mini movies.
Yeah.
It's changing.
Yeah, because the animation system and everything in there. Yeah. Even better is the way that Nanite works, Nanite and Lumen. So Lumen's a real-time lighting engine that's super advanced, and then Nanite is the geometry processing engine that lets you have crazy amounts of stuff in a level. And the normal rules of game development, which have been the same for decades, is just, it's going to probably take up some more memory to make it take more memory to make the game go faster because you're using a lot of this memory to pre-process a lot of the data that you would need to calculate in real time to make your frames per second really high. because of what you're looking at. There's LODs, you know, like levels of detail for like geometry and all that stuff. It eats up more memory. And with Nanite, you just need to throw everything out the window. Nothing that you knew is true anymore.
Yeah.
You can throw billions of polygons at it, and it goes 90 frames a second. It's insane.
So staying on the topic of things changing completely, what's your stance, both as a game designer and a technologist, on AI, which is obviously a hot topic now?
Hell yeah.
We mentioned before in a conversation, you mentioned that you can't really get all the answers you want from ChatGPT.
Yeah.
But how do you think that's changing creative work, such as gaming now? And how are you using AI? Also saw you are looking for, again, AI people for Romero Games as well.
Yeah, what's funny is when you advertise for an AI programmer, it's not the ChatGPT type of AI programmer. It's a programmer who can make characters move around in a certain way, doing combat and thinking, but has nothing to do with the focus on where AI is right now with ChatGPT. So it's funny because you can probably charge more now because you're called an AI programmer.
Yeah.
But yeah, using ChatGPT is really great for creativity. You know, because ChatGPT just draws on all kinds of information when it decides to come up with an answer for you, and it's great to just take that as some inspiration. You know, it's like, how would you design a blah 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 blah, and it says it. It's like, I didn't think about that one thing in there. All the other stuff I already knew, but that one thing is a cool idea. Well, let me ask some more about that one thing, you know? And so it's like...
It can lead you in a creative direction.
It can lead you in a creative direction, which is amazing. And the other thing I really like about it, which I think on a much higher level is the thing that I think most people want. Why, when I go search for an answer, do I get a million results? Why am I even having to sift through those things? Why can't I just get the answer? Yeah. And so ChatGPT will just give me the answer usually. It doesn't say, well, pick from these 50 things I just came up with. It's like, here's what I think. And you can regenerate the response, and it'll tell you something that may be different or maybe close to similar. It's not perfect, right? I mean, I've had it mess up. Like 4 is really good, right? And it's getting better. But it's really great to just help creativity. It's great for proofing an algorithm. One of the things that like people were asking me just in the game industry, like, what happens now that you can actually just create mid-journey graphics and all this kind of stuff? And my answer is, AI is going to be a massively huge force in game development. And some of the new jobs that are going to be opening up in the future are how good you are at using AI to do that job. Not that it's going to replace something. Like, you're not going to replace writers, right? Narrative designers with ChatGPT, because there's just too many limitations. And if you don't have that creative spark at the very beginning, you can forget it. It's like,
it's a skill.
Because it's going to regenerate stuff that people have already come up with, right? Like, you need the ideas. You need people who have ideas and people who can have that spark and do something that has a crazy twist in it that, like, you won't get that, right? But how, the jobs where I'm going to be really good at AI to do procedural generation of animation or something, right? So, like, right now, people are using Houdini for art, right? Generating procedural art, but it's like static and everything. But, like, you're using a procedural system to create something that would take a really long time to do by hand. And like that right now is really where AI is great. It's helping. They're helping tools. They're not replacing anything. They're just helping you cut time out. So, and I can see that being, just something that people really kind of latch onto for a while. It's like, if you think you're going to replace somebody with AI, you're making a big decision. You're making a big decision that's probably a bad one, because you're going to homogenize whatever it is that you are using that AI for. And you need to, like, have people that have their own style and their own spark and their own creativity that doesn't exist yet.
Yeah, I'm guessing that AI couldn't create a new Doom. It might have created a Doom clone or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Regeneration and so on.
Yep.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And last question from our editor, Ana Maria. Do you find yourself playing Doom from time to time again in your old games? Or are you all Minecraft and World of Warcraft these days?
So I'm making the next sigil, so I play a lot of Doom. So whenever I'm playing Sigil, I do that. I also, because I speak in different conferences, a lot of times they want me to Doom deathmatch anybody that's there. So I professionally deathmatch in Doom.
Okay, so that's on the next episode of the
That's
Sugar
right,
podcast.
that's right. It's rare. I've had one person beat me. Yeah.
Okay, we'll get challengers. Like, leave your comment. We'll see about that for maybe Shift, some other edition. Thank you very much for being part of Netokracija podcast. And of course, you'll have a book coming out soon.
July 18th, Doom Guy, Life in First Person.
Awesome. We'll link that in the description. Thank you so much for watching Netokracija podcast, listening to it, and see you in the next episode.